Hello everyone, Joe here, and welcome to the first ever video from United Journal. Before we get on to talking about Manchester United, let me just tell you a bit about who we are. United Journal is an independent news page that provides you with daily coverage on everything Man United. Make sure to check out our Twitter and Instagram pages. The links are in the bio, or you can find them on the screen later on. Here on YouTube, we'll be providing loads of exclusive content like interviews with players, ex-players, match predictions, reviews, and much more. Make sure to subscribe to our channel below and turn the bell on so you don't miss any of our videos. So let's get started today. I'm joined by Rohit and Matt as we discuss Sunday's 3-1 defeat at Leicester, Nicky Butt's departure from Manchester United's academy, there's targets like Jadon, Sancho and Declan Rice, and much more. So let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Talking Manchester United podcast. I'm Joe, and as always, I'm joined by Rohit and Matt. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thanks.
Good to be back.
All right, let's get straight into it. Well, as we all know, United crashed out of the FA Cup quarter-final on Sunday with a disappointing 3-1 defeat to Leicester, another season without domestic trophies. Rohit, I'll come to you first. How did you assess the performance?
Was it a very unfortunate game? Shambolic performance all around, we have to say. Big fan of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I really like the players and the squad that he's building. The most likable squad in years that we've had in Manchester United. I think they've really, of course, made some mistakes this season. Overall, the progress is there, but unfortunately, that game against Leicester was one of those games where we've just not shown up. It's a complete switch-off game. Individual errors cost us massively. And it's just one of those cases where fatigue gets up to you after mentally sapping games against Milan, against West Ham, against Manchester City, of course, where we all had good results, and we just collapsed. It just added together.
Yeah, it was definitely something that we don't think we expected Leicester to come out like that. I know they've had a good season, and it's you have to remember they're only 1 point behind us in the league. They're suffering with a lot of injuries at the minute as well. Matt, one point I wanted to bring up here was United's domestic finishes under Solskjaer we've had. In 2018-19, we finished in the FA Cup quarters. Last season, we had the EFL Cup semis and the FA Cup semis. And then this season, we've got the EFL Cup semis and the FA Cup quarters. Do you think this inability to go all the way and get Solskjaer's first piece of silverware is worrying?
Yeah, I think it is worrying. I think, obviously the team is still growing. I think we're still trying to figure some things out. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to judge Ole on his ability to kind of win trophies and win titles, and to kind of continue to not be able to get over the line is going to at some point start to become a very, very big concern. But I still think he's got a little bit more time and a little bit more rope before we can start to really be concerned about it.
Yeah, obviously time is the biggest thing we've got to give him. He came into here to this club whenever, Mourinho had essentially destroyed us. The morale was awful in the dressing room. There was, too many problems here, and he's come back. He's lifted us into a new spirit. For once, and since Fergie retired, we're actually seeing progress at the club, which is something that, I think Ollie being a club legend has, attributed to that, and we have a lot to thank for him. But one thing, Fred obviously is a big talking point amongst United fans after that performance. He was fantastic last season. Mick Fred has been, one of the most reliable midfield partnerships that we've had in the past two seasons, but he's shown a bit of a decline so far this season, really sloppy in possession, giving the ball away in dangerous positions, has led to the Iheanacho goal to open the scoring on Sunday. Rohit, what did you make of his performance and his sloppiness on Sunday?
Yeah, I have a really soft corner for Fred because he was the most experienced player last season. He's a really likable character as well, very humble guy. And I love the fact that he puts in a shift, right? He never stops running. He covers every blade of grass. And Fred has a really strong attacking mentality about him, but the challenge is that his execution is extremely poor. He tries to release the ball very quickly and he ends up botching it quite often, right? Where he just needs to be sometimes a little bit more relaxed, right? And think twice, right? I think what happened against Leicester was a disaster waiting to happen because he has had in the last 2 to 3 weeks some concerning moments. I don't agree with the amount of criticism he got in those weeks, but I think it's come to a point where he made a mistake. That being said, that mistake was bad. That led to the goal. I don't particularly think that Matic and Maguire made life particularly easier for him. I think that was a bit of him getting a bit caught in the cold. But that doesn't take away from what was a very unfortunate performance on his part, because he was strewn with errors in that first half. And uh, one can only hope that at this point he picks himself up, brushes himself off, uses the break of 2 weeks to refresh himself, and comes back with a renewed vigor and hopefully a much stronger finish to the season, because we need his industry. There is a reason that the McFred combination, while not your modern day Pirlo and Gattuso by any stroke of luck, there is a reason that has been the most successful partnership of our midfield pairing for a more sustained period. They're not the guys that we need to be leading the partnership that we need forever at the highest level, but they have definitely put in a massive shift in the last 2 seasons for us when needed and when the chips were down. I don't think we should forget that before we jump to abuse Fred, as he has been very sadly abused in the last few days.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Our success this season probably depends on Fred picking up his form. If we especially want to win the Europa League, when that comes about, we've got a lot of work to do with the squad. And I just wanted to come to the team selection, Matt. There was a lot of people saying that possibly Solskjaer got it wrong. In the 64th minute, there was a quadruple substitution. I think this was when Solskjaer realised, it wasn't working. And he brought on Shaw, Fernandes, McTominay and Cavani for Telles, Van de Beek, Matic and Pogba. Obviously, Pogba's substitution wasn't tactical. He's obviously playing with a bit of a niggle at the minute, and he wasn't ready to play the full 90 minutes. But what did you make of the team selection? Was there anything you think he should have done differently?
I personally had no issues with the team selection. I mean, I thought that, he's not exactly subbing, or he's not exactly putting players that are terrible. You know what I mean? Alex Telles is a Brazil international. We've all been crying out for Donny van de Beek to get some more game time. I mean, I wish that we had someone other than Nemanja Matic to turn to in midfield. So I didn't have any issues with the team selection. I just kind of thought maybe for some players it was a game too far. Like Rohit mentioned, Fred, maybe it was a game too far for him. Maguire, I thought, played Fred into trouble in that instance. Maybe it's been a game too far even for him. And of course, you've got Pogba who's coming back from injury, so he's obviously not at 100%. So I just think it was kind of a bit of a. I know I heard other people call it a bit of a perfect storm, where we've had some players who played way too much, and then we've had some players who've not played enough, and it just kind of showed, unfortunately. But in terms of what Ollie could have done with the team selection, I thought it was fine, personally.
Yeah, there was a lot of good selections in there. We haven't seen Van de Beek. He hasn't been given a proper chance at the club, and he was instrumental in that first goal. That dummy set up the Greenwood finish, so he has to get a lot of credit for that. The ball from Pogba as well was superb. Even Telles is involved in that. But as we were talking about the busy schedule and how really packed it is, our 29-game domestic unbeaten run was ended on Sunday. Our last defeat was away from home was Liverpool in January 2020. Obviously, this is a big positive to look at. We haven't, such a long unbeaten run. Rohit, do you think this is, something to reflect on as really positive that we've gone so far unbeaten, or does it still feel quite sour that it had to end on Sunday?
Look, all good runs ultimately come to an end, right? The great Arsenal Invincibles also came to an end. You can't just go on winning forever. I think the team has shown a lot of heart in the last 29 games away from home. Remember, there are a lot of comebacks. I think it's 7 matches that we've come back from a goal down or 2 goals down to ultimately win. Great ones come to mind, like Southampton away, for example, or even West Ham away, right? And we always found that resilience, that fighting power. So I think the team can be very proud of what it has achieved. I remember some years ago under Jose Mourinho, when we went on this massive unbeaten run, so-called, and it was the most pointless unbeaten run because it was just filled and filled and filled with draws, right? So for me, this was a lot more entertaining. There were a lot more points on the board, which is what mattered. We did make a lot more progress as a team. And the team has now got to dust itself off, just like Fred has to individually, as I mentioned, regroup themselves, have a bit of a mental reset and a refresh over this period. Come back with a new outlook on doing a strong run in.
Yep, all the eyes are set now on the end of the season and trying to finish as strong as possible. That
Yep.
second spot is something that we I think we need to get to prove to ourselves that no one ever expected us to win the league title. I don't even think that many people expected us to make the top four this season. So to be in second place, right behind the best team in the world, is definitely something to applaud. But it was something we were talking about just before we started recording here. Nemanja Matic, where I don't think any of us were too impressed with his performance. I don't think any of us think he should have been a starter. Matt, I'll come to you here. Do you think his time is up at the club?
Yes, in a word, yes. His time is up. Whether that be us getting in, say, a Declan Rice in the summer or another player from abroad, or even taking a long shot at promoting, say, Jimmy Garner from the youth team, we've got to move on from Nemanja Matic. And I say that because the issue with the second goal, that 1-2 that just kind of left him for dead, Tielemans isn't even, if you go back and you watch it, Tielemans isn't even really, he's not even sprinting past him. Nemanja Matic is just unable to kind of keep up. And for me, watching United, obviously every single game, and every time he plays, I feel like that same situation happens at least once, if not twice, every game. And sometimes we're just able to kind of avoid conceding a goal because of it. But, at the weekend, we weren't so lucky. But I think that happens all the time with Nemanja Matic. His legs are just gone, and we need to move on, personally, is my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's had his days of Premier League winning. I think he's won 2 titles with Chelsea. He's had a good career, but it sort of spells the end for him. Road, what do you think? And specifically, if he does go, you're a big fan of Declan Rice. I know that. Is that who you would want to bring in the summer as a replacement?
There are a number of candidates, right? First of all, I really appreciate what Matic has done at his time at United, especially the first season. He was really good. I think we've also not used him in the right way, to be honest. I think he's the kind of player that you bring on at minutes 70, 75 when you're in a labored 1-0 victory or a 2-0 victory, kind of thing, and you want to just shut down and close down the game. And he does not combine well, unfortunately, in those midfield 2 positions with both Fred or either Fred or McTominay. So I think it's time to appreciate what he has done. He brought a lot of leadership in the dressing room, but I think it's also time to say goodbye. We need to know when to move these players on. Now, in terms of replacement, I am a huge fan of Declan Rice. I'm hoping that Jesse Lingard turns into Messi Lingard and earns us up some money before we can sell him off at a fairly good rate to West Ham, and or do a part swap, right, with some cash and bring in Declan Rice, because one of the things I believe that's also will make us a more attacking force, a stronger attacking force, and a stronger defensive force is the presence of a really strong, highly technically gifted defensive midfielder, and Declan Rice is that player. So you will have the chance to play Bruno and probably Van der Beek or Pogba, if he stays, in an advanced role with Declan Rice behind them, shielding also and protecting the defense, which would help the issues besides Harry Maguire, which is not having a very quick or pacey partner, right? Unless it's Eric Bailly, of course. So I think that Declan Rice would be the first choice, right? Also around Europe, there's a player called Tion Koopmeiners, who plays at Arze, who I've been watching for 6 or 8 months or so, and I'm very impressed by him. I think that he's a player who can do the Matic role. He's left-footed. He can drop in between the centre backs as well. So very talented player. Rumors are that he is going to be on the Raiola roster of players. So that's an only concerning factor. But those are the 2 candidates I would look at right now from a more realistic side. And hopefully we get a defensive midfielder this summer.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think we can all agree, position that needs to be, worked on and prioritised in the summer. Another position that we've had slight doubts about this season, including last season, is the goalkeeper spot and who Solskjaer is going to start between the sticks. I know we were speaking before about David De Gea. So, Matt, I'm going to ask you the question here. Going forward, who would you start, De Gea or Henderson?
I would start Henderson going forward. I think De Gea has been, I think we'll all be in agreement, De Gea has been a great servant of the club. But I just kind of think, it's his time, just like it's been all of the previous great players' time before him. I think it's time for us to just kind of move forward with Henderson. And I also think that, certain things about Henderson's playing style, I think we've touched on it in past podcasts, certain facets of Henderson's game kind of complement our center backs at present. So I just kind of would like to see us give Henderson a good run of games for us to be able to find out if he's truly good enough to be Manchester United's number one. And if he's not, then we'll have to have a whole nother conversation. But at the moment, I still kind of feel like we're in this gray area where he could be, but he could not be. So we'll only know if we give him a run of games.
Yeah, there's always the discussion. He was unbelievably good at Sheffield United last year. So, what's the problem that he's come to United and it, hasn't been, the smoothest road for him. But Rohit, who would you go with between the sticks? I know it's a big decision, but sometimes you have to say goodbye. At the end of the day, there's always going to be an ending. Who would you go for?
I always will appreciate David De Gea for his contributions to this club. I think he's been an outstanding player. If I'm not mistaken, he's the only player that remains in the squad right now that has won the Premier League with United in the past, right? Of course, there's Phil Jones, but I don't consider him around anymore. Now, with David De Gea, I think he wanted to go to Real Madrid. There was the infamous Faxgate incident. And he stayed. Was he loyal? Was he not? Different questions being asked. Everybody has an opinion on it. But I think the club rewarded him with a very, very, very lucrative contract. There's one criticism I've always had of David De Gea is that he has never been successful in improving himself on commanding the box. And when I say commanding the box, there's two parts to that. One is vocally commanding the box, which I have to say is okay in the last few months. Seems like he has improved, maybe because of Dean Henderson's presence. But the other part of it, in terms of physically commanding the box and coming out to collect the ball more often, I'm sorry, but he has been absolutely shambolic. He has never done that well. If you look at Dean Henderson, he is not the shot stopper that David De Gea is. He will not pull off as many of those blockbuster saves, but he's a much more balanced goalkeeper. He can be a better shot stopper. He's constantly improving. I've seen over the last 2-3 years. But what he does really well is that he comes out and he collects the ball well. He commands the box. Look at that Luke Shaw goal against Manchester City. He released the ball really quickly. And he listens. I think he listens more to his players around him than David De Gea as well, right? So for me, it's an easy one. I fully agree that we should make a snapshot decision and just wait till the end of the season. I think we should start blooding Dean Henderson right now. Give him as much chance, as many opportunities as he can. Let him get used to playing week in and week out. And in the summer, hopefully. Give David De Gea a big pat on the back, a big hug from everybody around, and hopefully he finds another good club that will get the best out of him.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's been a club legend, and in my opinion, he's the best goalkeeper to ever have played for United. I know that's a controversial one with the likes of Schmeichel, Van der Sar, but I think De Gea, with his shot-stopping ability-wise, talent-wise, I think he's the best we've ever had. But moving on, we've had some news in the past week or so. Nicky Butt left his role as head of first-team development at the club after 9 years. And Laurie Whitwell of The Athletic reported that he had a fallout with the new football director, John Murtough. So this was a pretty controversial topic amongst United fans. And I've got a quote here saying they were like chalk and cheese with different perspectives of football. And I was just wondering, I'll come to you, Matt, here. What sort of signal does this send out to the fans, our brand new football director falling out with the club legend immediately after getting the job?
I wouldn't read too much into it, honestly. I mean, I feel like these sort of things happen in any profession. You know what I mean? You have people who have disagreements, and then one person goes their separate way just to kind of go off and do their own thing. So I think in the article, I think Nicky Butt had wanted Murtough's job, and then obviously when he didn't get it, he didn't want to be taking orders from Murto. So we just thought he would just leave, which, that happens in every profession and every walk of life. So I completely get it. I wouldn't read too much into it personally. It's just one of those things that happens. Wish it didn't happen because, it would be great to kind of keep certain people that have been successful in their roles at United, but it happens, unfortunately. It's part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. The industry is cruel. There's no real nice way about it. So, Rohit, what did you make of the situation? Did it raise any alarm flags to you, or were you, did you just think, accept the decision, move on, not to think too much about it?
I don't think Nicky Butt is done with Manchester United. I think he will be back someday, right? He's done a fabulous job. What is it, last 9 years that he's been in coaching in Manchester United. So I think he's learned a lot. He's a tough lad. He comes from a tough part of Manchester, and he's made of steel. He's like Scott McTominay. So I'm not too worried about what that means with John Murto coming in and doing something. I don't know John Murto's personality so well, to be honest. But from what I can see is that, and what I know is that this happens in all walks of life, in any professional situation. You have disagreements, you don't gel well with people with different personalities, and maybe wasn't a personality thing, it was maybe just a totally different outlook on football. And if the person at the top of the chain has got a certain view, and he and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer are looking at something in a very unique way, and they are aligned on something, and then Nicky Butt is not, and he sees it very differently, then perhaps it is better that Nicky Butt moves on, right? The only hope that I have for him is that he finds a good club. He finds a club that he can work at it. He can expand on his skill set and develop as a coach, because I feel that there will be a role for him to do in the future at Man United. But besides that, look, I'm also very, very happy with the setup overall that we've now put in. We've been crying for a director of football for years. I'm not so worried about the designation. Job title is job title. We know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, McPhelan, and Nicky Butt were pretty much the de facto director of football, right? But as you scale a squad and you want to have a more strong structure, then to manage players and to manage a whole recruitment process, you will need that director of football. So I'm happy that we've invested in the position, happy that we've got Darren Fletcher, and I suggest that all of us as a fan base focus on accepting the new director of football and the new structure around them, and give them time, because there's one thing that a new setup does need time, but also with COVID, it's not going to be that 500 billion pound summer that the whole of Twitter is demanding. It's going to be 100 million pounds summer if we're lucky, and hopefully we start to make, as I've always said, smart buys rather than expensive buys constantly.
Yep, and as you said there, we're not going to have a blank checkbook essentially to work with this summer. And the academy is what Manchester United is most famous for, besides the trophies. It's really important. And what I was thinking, we've got obviously some great up and coming centre backs in the academy. We've got the likes of Teden Mengi, who's currently on loan at Wayne Rooney's Derby, and with Victor Lindelof not seeming to sort of gel together with Harry Maguire very well. We've seen occasional good performances from the two, but the inconsistencies are there, and there's a lot of doubts raised as to whether Lindelof is going to be Harry Maguire's partner for the future. We've seen reports from Duncan Castles saying Maguire's asked for an English-speaking centre-back, which is quite bold of him, thinking he can demand that at this stage in his United career. But the Manchester Evening News also reported that Pau Torres would be interested in a move to the club, and Solskjaer's also prioritising it. It's believed that his release clause could be in the region of 60 million euros. And I'll come to you here, Matt. Have you seen much of Pau Torres at Villarreal, and do you think he'd be a good fit?
I haven't had a chance to watch him extensively. From what I've read and from how I've heard other people talk about him, it seems like he would be a pretty decent compliment. I don't know that he's the quickest from what everybody's spoken of him. I don't know that he'll solve our lack of pace in the back line. But a left footer allows us to kind of put Maguire on the right. And then we have two ball-playing center backs, one left-footed, one right-footed, which I guess may allow our build-up to kind of elevate a level. So, I guess we'll see. That's one of them where you kind of have to just trust the scouts and trust that they've done their due diligence and that they're making the right decisions. And And hopefully we'll be able, as Rohit pointed out before about us doing smart business, hopefully we won't find ourselves in a situation where we get Pau Torres for, 60, 70 million when, there might be better options available to us for cheaper. So I'd say just trust the scouts, and hopefully they've done a good job in identifying a player that will complement the team and fit in seamlessly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the biggest point about putting your faith in the people that work at the club, and they're in that position for a reason, so you have to trust them to do the job to the best of their ability. And Rohit, I'll ask you here, do you think Torres is the best fit alongside Maguire, or do you believe there's a better option we could go for there?
There were always two targets that Manchester United were following very closely for this role. One was Diogo Upamecano, who is of course now gone to Bayern Munich. Then there was also Pau Torres, right? And Pau Torres is a left-footed, pacey centre back. I believe he can sit down there besides Harry Maguire and do quite a good job of it. But it seems to me that his future, if not at Manchester United, will be at Real Madrid. That's my feeling. And there's a bit of a understanding that if Rafael Varane leaves, then he would be bought to fill in his shoes. Now, whatever this merry-go-round has to offer, one good thing is that Rafael Varane could be a straight swap with Paul Pogba, right? If Pogba ends up leaving Manchester United this summer. But I think probably one of the shrewder buys would be selling Eric Bailly back to Villarreal, where he came from, if I'm not mistaken, if Pau Torres leaves, and then probably going to Italy and getting in Milinkovic, right, who seems to have been recently prioritized a bit when it comes to the other two candidates, right? But that does not leave or stop the end of the centre-back search. I believe that there are some other candidates as well that we should be looking at. There is David Carmo in Portugal, who is an upcoming centre-back. I would look at him, number one. And I would also look at Facundo Medina, potentially. And I think we should also build a little bit of depth in the back, because I always felt that Axel Tuanzebe could step up. Seems to me that he is falling out of favor. I'm not sure, with his injuries last season. This season I thought would be his year, and then he had that brilliant game against PSG where he pocketed Mbappe, and then we're back to square one again. And I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated on this side. So I think that we need to look at also the cut price buys to build some more depth in the centre back area.
As you said, that's a good point about Tuanzebe as well. Everyone at the club has such high hopes for him, but this season, whenever he's seen appearances, he probably hasn't performed to the best that we know he can. When he came on against Leicester on Boxing Day, scored an own goal. We ended up not getting the 3 points there. The ball came off him against Sheffield United when we lost 2-1. And, those were two disappointing performances for him. And I assume that sort of kicked his morale a bit and his belief in himself. He's got to, work that back in training. And by doing so, Solskjaer has to give him game time and allow him to get back into the side and build his confidence up again. But then again, talking about the transfer window, the name that pops up every single year it seemed to be now, Jadon Sancho. James Ducker of the Telegraph reported that our interest remains in the player, but at lower levels than the 108 million. So we know we don't have much money to work with this summer, as most clubs don't. But I'll come to you, Matt, here. Do you think Jadon Sancho, despite not being at the game he was last season, obviously, do you still believe that right wing is a big priority for us?
Yes, wholeheartedly. I feel like we try to force the ball down the left at every chance we get. It seems like the ball's coming down the left, which makes it. And obviously, as a fan, if I know that we're going to do that, I'm sure the opposition knows that that's what's coming. So I feel like putting Jadon Sancho in that team takes, not only is it going to take us up a level and allowing us to kind of build from the right as well as the left, but it's also going to ease the burden on Bruno and on Rashford and whomever else. Assuming Pogba stays, it'll ease the burden on him to kind of create chances for us to score. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer. You're talking about a generational talent in Jadon Sancho, and I think that we missed the trick last summer and not getting it done. Hopefully the situation is a bit similar and that there'll be nobody else in for him, based on the fact that, other teams will have other priorities that they have to fill, and maybe the price tag will put them off. But I think that we kind of can't afford to mess that up 2 consecutive summers. The only way I see us not getting Sancho is if a certain Erling Haaland is available, and if rumors are to be believed true, no one is coming near that figure for him. So I'm all on board for Jadon Sancho.
I think there's only two clubs in the world right now who can afford Haaland, and that's Man City and PSG at the reported 180 million asking fee. So I'm fairly certain he's going to be staying in Dortmund this year. But Rohit, I'll come to you here. You're a big fan of Declan Rice. If it only comes down to this summer and we can only sign one marquee player, let's say Jadon Sancho or Declan Rice, which position would you prioritise in the team?
Ooh, you're making life very difficult for me on that. I feel that we haven't scored as many goals as we can this year, and won more matches just because of a lack of a ruthless striker, right? So for me, the important thing is that we need to find that 40 goal a season striker to get us right up there. And I'm sorry, but I don't like to say I've given up, but I've lost patience with Anthony Martial, because it's undeniable where his quality is. He's a brilliantly talented player, but the effort, I mean, he was brilliant against Manchester City, but then again, that's one game in what, 10, 15, just too inconsistent to be relied on. I think it's time to say goodbye to him. So I would punt on Erling Haaland now. The price of 180 million is ridiculous, to be honest. It should be a fair bit lower, but if not, then either which ways, look, we need the right winger, right? So if I had to choose one between Haaland and Sancho, I would choose Haaland any day. But if that's not an option, easily Sancho comes in first, right? And I'll explain why. We need the central defensive midfielder, make no mistake about it. But I still feel that you can work through that situation with a stronger defensive setup if you have that, right? Or you manage to, by some stroke of luck, keep Eric Bailly fit or something like that. But or sign a more cut price centre back, like the way Fofana has become something magnificent in Leicester so quickly. Sign a good cut price centre back like David Carmo and get something out of him. But the right wing on that's a good point that Matt made, right? The balance in the squad is ridiculous right now. Everything comes down the left. It's like this one-trick pony approach, and the right-hand side is absolutely bare. So I think Sancho would be probably the highest impact from a squad rounding perspective, but from a single player perspective, Erling Haaland would be, or a similarly ruthless striker would be also a strong bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sancho, obviously we know as well, is great friends with Marcus Rashford, so the chemistry in the squad would be something that United fans can't really look past. But we're in the international break at the minute. Marcus Rashford has pulled out and is no longer with the England squad. He's travelled home, and he will be featured in their last two qualification games. Matt, I'll come to you here. Do you think that the injuries and the pressure that's on him to deliver week in, week out for this team is slowly burning him out?
I do. And it's something that we spoke about, we spoke about it today briefly before we started recording. We spoke about it in episodes prior. I think we've got to be kind of worried about Rashford kind of burning himself out, kind of the same way that Rooney did, just based on sheer volume of games and trying to play through injuries and playing through the pain barrier. I definitely would like to see us try to, I don't know if it's a matter of bringing in someone that'll allow us to spell him, or if it's just going to come down to Ollie making the tough decision to say, hey, listen, I know you're not 100%, and I know you want to play, but you're not playing in this game because we need you over the long haul. But I definitely think that over the past couple of seasons, we've seen him try to put the team on his back to the point that his back literally broke. And I think that we need to start making tough calls and leave him out so that we can enjoy him long into his 30s, as opposed to just seeing the best of him now and seeing a player who's a shell of himself by the time he's 30.
Yeah, and we all know the famous song as well from Withenshaw and Loves to Fight. That's our Rashford. He's red. We know he'll always give anything for the team. So, Rohit, what do you think about that? Do you think this international break is going to do him, the world of good? Or we know Henry Winter reported he may need shoulder injury, after the Euros. Is it something that you're concerned about?
Actually, for Marcus Rashford, look, I know that he plays with his heart on his sleeve for Man United and for England, right? Um, and I think that he is definitely more important to Manchester United than he is to England, right? Remember, they've still got Raheem Sterling who can play in that position as well, and good squad depth there. Sancho can deputize on the left wing as well, right? Now, for Man United, there are some signs that Rashford is overdoing it, right? Um, and he wants to play, right? I was at Old Trafford for the game against Wolves when he came on in the FA Cup and he got injured, right? And that was him pushing and wanting to play in that game. That's just his intent. I think that's a magnificent thing. But what I would do is I would ensure that, if you sign Sancho, and that's another benefit of Sancho, right? You sign Sancho and you've got the depth of Sancho and then Greenwood or Sancho and Amad Diallo on the right wing. And then you've got also Dan James and Rashford. They can all help out each other such that there is not so much of the stress and pressure on Marcus Rashford. And then, yeah, he could have a longer career, right? The only other thing I would caution against making assumptions that his heavy work rate will ruin and cut short his career is, modern techniques of training and medicine are far ahead of what they were 10 or 15 years ago when Rooney graced the stage and graced the scene, right? Look at a player like Bruno Fernandes now for 4 seasons or so. He's been able to play 50 games or 40 games a season without too much, and he'll still track back. Like you saw last season, he ran back, what was it, minute 118 against Norwich, right to the defense line from a counter-attacking position. So I'm I say take it with a pinch of salt and trust Ole and Marcus Rashford to reduce a bit, but it's not as dramatic as I think it sounds.
Yeah, it's obviously a big, concern for us seeing, what happened to Wayne Rooney. He didn't really last as long as we would have hoped. But that's going to be it for today. That'll wrap us up. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find Matt and Rohit's links to Twitter, both in the description. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Check these videos out too and make sure to drop a like and a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more Man United exclusive videos. Tap on the bell icon so that you don't miss any videos. See you soon.